What's going on, everybody? It's so good to see you. Today, we're going to talk about the Aeropress and how to brew Aeropress for two people. All right, so the Aeropress obviously is typically intended to be brewed for one person or to brew just one cup at a time, but you can certainly brew for two people. And I've done this a lot lately because I recently ran out of all my Chemex filters and I ran out of my V60 filters. And instead of rushing out and getting those filters again, I thought I'd go into my cabinet and see what else I could possibly make coffee for myself and for Anna with. So I used a method called bypass brewing to make essentially a concentrate and then dilute it using the Aeropress. Now, what bypass brewing is typically used for is when you're brewing a very large batch of coffee, a batch that's so large that the water can't get through it fast enough and you're gonna over extract. And grinding coarse doesn't really help you and you're kind of stuck. So what you can do is brew with less water and then dilute later, avoid over extraction, and then adjust the brew strength later. In this case though, we're using it because the Aeropress is limited. There's only so much space in this little guy. About 250 grams of water will fit, which is good for one cup if you're good for like a 9 or 10 ounce cup of coffee. But if you want to brew for two, and in this case, we're going to do 500 gram brew, so about 17 ounces, which is pretty good for me and Anna. I don't drink a whole lot in the morning, so it works out just perfectly for us. Now, the recipe that I'm going to use is 30 grams of coffee to 500 grams of water. So that's a 1:16 ratio. This is what I usually use for a V60, and I'm going to adapt it to the Aeropress. So we'll grind 30 grams of coffee, see how much we can get into this guy, and then we'll add the rest to our finished brew. Okay, so I mentioned that bypass brewing is usually used to avoid over extraction when you're brewing larger batches. This isn't really the case here. We are just trying to brew enough coffee using this tiny vessel. So adjustments we're gonna have to make. I usually will grind a couple steps finer. If that's not an option for you, then just add another 30 seconds or maybe even 60 seconds to the total brew time. Now, a problem that we might run into in this case, because we're not passing nearly as much water through the grounds as we normally would, is we might end up with something that's a little under extracted. So extending the brew time, grinding a little bit finer, but also agitating is really helpful. And with the Aeropress, you have this really, really nice tool. I honestly will use this for V60 and Chemex because I just think it's way better than a spoon, for me anyway. So we'll go ahead and start. And we'll pour as much as we can get in here. I'm gonna stir as I go just because it helps break down the gases and kind of helps settle the coffee bed. All right, and that is 250 grams right there. Go ahead and put the lid on there, just gently so it stays nice and hot. And then I'm gonna wait for about a minute. All right, so it's been 1 minute. Gonna take this off, stir a little bit more. Or if you're wanting to be lazy, you can just swirl it around and that'll also do the trick. And actually, I'm going to add a little bit more since I've got some more headroom. Okay, so now I'm up to 300. You don't want to break your scale. So take it off, make sure this is nice and snug before you start to press. And just use the weight of your arm. You can add a little bit of pressure, but standing up and using like your whole body weight is not really necessary. It looks cool, but it's not necessary. Keeping an eye on the time, we're at 2 minutes and 30 seconds right now. This is always way faster than a pour over, but this part of it always makes it feel like it's way longer. But usually a pour over takes me about 4 minutes, and we're gonna be well under 4 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna add a little pressure just to get everything out. All right. So there is our concentrate. Ooh, almost knocked that off the counter. There's our concentrate. I'm gonna go back to the scale and add ourselves about 200 grams of water. Now, this recipe, you can follow it to the letter, but I found that I need to adjust a little bit. And I don't know if it's because of the fact that the coffee bed's gonna absorb about 2 to 3 times its own weight in water. So when you're adding stuff that's not passing through the coffee bed, the math's not quite as simple as just like finishing out the recipe. So I'm gonna add, let's see, 300 grams. We want it to 500, but I think that's gonna be a little bit too weak for me. That's been my experience. It might not be your experience. I'm gonna add 175 grams. Let's see how that tastes. We'll also see if this was a good choice of brew vessel or not. I think we're gonna make it 100, 50, 60, 75. Okay, now's a good time to take this thing, wash it. Don't just plunge it right in because you're gonna wanna get this nice and clean, but you're gonna wanna stir this because there's gonna be a lot of concentrated coffee down here and then more dilute coffee up here. So it needs to all kind of, there's a fancy word for it. Can't remember what it is. I'll look it up later. Now let's give this a stir. And that is it. There's your concentrate. Let's get ourselves a cup. Let's get ourselves a clean counter. Like I said, I don't drink much in the morning. I probably have 2 of these, and that's enough. All right, so this brew came out pretty good. It's a little bit on the light side. So again, let's talk through those troubleshooting tips. If you're trying this at home and it's coming out a little bit light for you, then one, you can grind finer. That's probably the easiest thing you can do. The other thing would be to agitate a little bit longer. So I just agitated it until I was done pouring, but you could continue to agitate for another 30 seconds or so, and that would also make a pretty significant difference. And lastly, you can extend your brew time. So we were at about 3 minutes there. I could have let it sit for, another minute or so. Plunging really slowly like that though, there's not much you can really do to extend that. You could bloom with the Aeropress, but I've never really found that makes a whole lot of difference. Actually, as this cools, I think it's not the strength as much as bothering me because there is like a bit of siltiness coming from the brew method. It's just not quite as much acidity. So I think in this case, I would actually want to grind a little bit finer. So that's it for me. Happy 2021, everybody. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I will see you very soon in the next one. Bye.